Hello and welcome. In the spirit of my brand new book, The Delicate Art of Transformation, I've been on a quest for truth. What does it actually take to create real, lasting transformation? And here you are on the precipice of something big. I don't think that's a coincidence that we should ignore. Welcome, my friend. Welcome to the True Transformation Summit. This is where true growth and transformation happens when the right person says the right thing at the right time and it all clicks. Those are the moments that make all the difference, and that is what this summit is here for. You're going to hear from some incredible experts who every single one I personally invited to be here. So listen with an open heart, do what they say, take what resonates, try the practices, get their free gifts, and let this space be the place where you find your next step. My name is Talia Joy. I'm your host. And if you want all the free gifts, the resources, and the only place where you can be entered for prizes, you can join the Insider Circle for free below. All right, without further ado, take a deep breath in. Think about what you are transforming, what you are here for. And let's dive into today's episode. Hello, Kiki. Welcome to the True Transformation Summit. I'm so happy you're here. How are you doing today, my friend?
I am so good. Thank you so much for having me. It is amazing to be back in your space.
Yeah, this is going to be an amazing conversation. I invited you because I love everything that you have to teach, but I love hearing you speak on and watching you practice your journey with money. And it's such, everybody, there's lots of people talking about money. There's lots of people talking about success. And from you, I always get this embodied, almost holistic view of it, meaning it's when we integrate the mindset and the physical practices, the somatic work, all of that. And you're just such a beautiful embodiment. I've literally watched you go up and down and all around and reposition and all these things we do as entrepreneurs. And your energy stays the same. You're so grounded and authentic. And I'm so grateful that you're here.
Thank you. I'm receiving all of that. I have become the queen of the pivot over the past few years. That is for sure.
And that shows the resilience in your nervous system, your own commitment to this work, right? Because in business, I think all business, the gift of being able to pivot is a big one. It's when we keep trying to hammer something that's not working. It's like to pivot takes bravery, but it also is something we need to continue to do, I think.
It's the definition of entrepreneurship, honestly. Like you're solving problems, not just for your audience, you're solving problems for yourself too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I can't help but hear friends pivot, like just
Pivot!
Constantly, right? Yeah. All right. So before we dive in, if anyone is new to your world, let's start with that. Who are you and a little bit about your business?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Kiki. I am a wealth embodiment mentor for 6 and 7 figure visionary entrepreneurs. And as you had mentioned, we really approach wealth from a holistic standpoint. And the very first thing I do is teach my clients to detach wealth and money because they are two very different things and one feeds into the other. So wealth is actually a frequency, and I help my clients to define what wealth means to them because it is very subjective, whereas money is very objective. And so it is really helping them to define wealth, to get into that and like activate that frequency. And we do this through what I call the trifecta of wealth, which is your mind, body, and spirit. I do this through frequency, through regulation, and identity work.
That is it's so powerful. And there's some people, especially entrepreneurs, that are kind of going, wait, what? Like we don't just set the goal, set the budget, and strategically plan. And I'd love to hear too, before we kind of even dive into that, what's your story been with money and your own journey that has kind of led here? If you're willing to share a little bit of that.
Yeah, of course. So I started my business I started entrepreneurship in 2016. And as I got what we called the gateway drug to entrepreneurship, which was network marketing, one of the things was I was not like over the top obsessed with the product I was selling. I mean, I had full faith in it, but fitness was like not my passion. But as the business development came in, there was a big piece on self-development. And so the more that I studied personal development and mindset work, and then I landed into spirituality, it was like ping, 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 like all of these lights went off in my mind, in my body. And I was like, I like this. What is this? Can I make a career out of this? And it turns out that you can. So very quickly, I discovered that I wanted to help other people with their mindset. And then that just grew and evolved over the years. I started my own business in 2018. I quit my job. I went all in. It has been quite the journey and evolution. I saw a lot of success really quickly. I matched my corporate salary my first year in business, and then I went on to scale my business to six figures in 2020, like during the pandemic, which was absolutely incredible because, you know, there was a lot of like restriction during that time, both externally and internally. And I was very quickly scaling, you know, 2021. And then I hit this upper limit. I had a friend who, you know, really couldn't celebrate my success, and she left. And then one of the other most important people in my life left. And there was just all of this chaos. And so, you know, I had this incredible business that in April of 2021, I was, you know, scaling to my first multi five-figure month, and then hit all of these upper limits. I couldn't believe that I was worthy. You know, it started bringing up all of this old stuff. And as it did, it really triggered a lot of my unworthiness wounds. It triggered a lot of my own money stories. And so over that time, you know, I was experiencing as well, like my own journey with what is this? Like, what is this money stuff? And I ended up um, kind of by the end of 2021, I went from like a $20,000 month to a $2,000 month. And so there was a lot that kind of came up, and me attaching my self-worth to my success, my self-worth to how much money I was making. And I stayed in a lull in my business. There were some other factors that were a part of that. I stayed in a lull in my business for a solid like 2.5 years. And finally, I went to a mentor because I was on the brink of bankruptcy. Like I was going to file for bankruptcy. I was not happy with my business. I felt like I was throwing spaghetti at the wall, trying to figure everything out. I was dealing with my own internal world. You know, we get to this point, and like we had kind of had this conversation off camera, where, you know, you get to this point where you think like everything's all good. I don't need the work anymore. And so like that was part of the mix of I just stopped doing the work. I was like, I have arrived. And what ended up happening was I had this call with my mentor. I was on a last ditch effort. During that time, those 2.5 years, I lost, you know, so much of my business. I kept investing, trying to find the next thing outside of me. And as a part of that process, I ended up amassing like $60,000 worth of debt. So there was this whole thing where I had to like figure it the fuck out. I was at this crossroad of either I am going to go back to corporate and sell my soul, or I am going to give it this one last ditch effort. And on that call with my mentor, she helped me realize, she was like, Kiki, what do you actually want? And it just hit me, like it channeled through of, I just want to be wildly wealthy. Mm. And in that moment, I did not recognize the words that were coming out of my mouth. I gasped. I covered my mouth. I was like, who just said that? Because that wasn't me. And then in that moment, the brand that is, here today talking to you about wealth embodiment was born. And very quickly, things started shifting. I had been practicing right before that call, Kundalini, for about 40 some odd days. And that was the thing that started shifting the energy, because my mentor helped me realize that I had been living in this functional freeze state with everything that I had been going through the couple previous years. And my body did not feel safe. It didn't feel like a safe place to be. So how the fuck are you going to be creating, this visionary stuff when you literally are just thinking about surviving day to day to day? And this is the work that I never want women to have to experience ever. It's the work that will lead to women never having to experience the fight or flight, the survival mode, the sacrificing their dreams, their desires, their, giving their power over to something or someone outside of themselves. And so my whole mission and goal is to help empower women with their finances so that they can have everything that they've desired.
Wow, that's just so incredible hearing your story. So freaking relatable. Like, I feel like you just took the words out of my mouth of what I was going through before my big crash and burn, and, how I've been picking up the pieces, because it's so, everyone listening, most of you guys are going to be entrepreneurs because of the topic and Kiki's work. But even if you're not, that crushing pressure of having to figure it out. And it's almost like, for me, I didn't realize I was burned out. It's like someone says burnout, and I kind of go, well, yeah, like I have 3 kids, I've got a business, I've got this, I've got that. I'm definitely exhausted, but like, what am I going to do about it? I can't just, start lounging and whatever. Like, I'm trying. Okay. And it's almost that I'm trying. And the business, I'm trying. I'm figuring out the plan. I'm going to clear some space this weekend. We're going to figure out the plan. But doing that for years is almost like a special flavor of burnout. It's almost like entrepreneur burnout. Can you relate to that?
1000%. There was this time where I just remember like the wheels were spinning nonstop. Like, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. But I physically could not bring my body to move, to do it. And the biggest piece of what I teach with my clients is that we cannot, specifically as women, we cannot logic our way to success. There is a logical piece that comes in, but it is not the first thing. And so this is where my frequency first approach to wealth embodiment comes in, is that it is energy. It is that combination of your mind, of your body, and of your soul. Those 3 things have to be running in unison, and you cannot have one without the other. It's a triangle for a reason, because if you remove one of those pieces, the whole structure collapses.
Wow, that's really beautiful. I've always felt like money was always a challenge with me. I would say my physical body and money. I always felt like I would get these intuitive nudges of, if I would have made the 10K months when I first tried, and the 100K months or years or whatever when I first tried, I wouldn't have gone through such deep, intense healing. I don't know if I would have found my mom wound, inner child work, shadow, my physical habits, lack, scarcity, the root chakra. Like, I just think about my quote unquote money problems led me to so many of these places that and sort of in that, it shows me how intertwined they are. And that trifecta, we can have the soul and be doing our soul's work and have a strong intuition. And, maybe we're taking tons of action as well, but that body piece is missing. The trifecta you're talking about is so true. And it may ask us to do a lot of fucking work and purging and reorganizing our nervous system and all this stuff that we need to do. But that is truly the secret. And I love that you talk about it like that. And I get the idea from you too. It's like, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's not just one party practice and you've got it all figured out.
The consistency piece is probably one of the biggest things. And it's funny, I'm actually running like a challenge right now for 21 days because I was like, and as I shared with you before we hopped on here, is that I've been in this like 6 month like lull kind of where I haven't like exponentially grown, but I also haven't sabotaged, which is
Mm,
like to hold that stretch of just maintenance and not being in that growth phase. That would have triggered me in the past.
mm,
So I was like, okay, well, now, I've been in the 6 months. So now I'm ready to shift out of it. What do I need to do? I need to come back to my consistency. I need to come back to a regular practice, not just this like, oh, let me do this, one day and this another day, and I'll do, just 5 minutes is enough. Sometimes it's not, right? And sometimes we
mhm.
go into seasons where we've got to do the work and we've got to do like the actual tangible work of building a program, for example. That was me last year. And there is so much that needs to come back within our bodies and bring in that consistency that goes so much further than just one off day, one off practice, meditating, once a week. Like that ain't it. It's called the work because it's work, right? We have to bring in this consistency. And what I tell my clients is that in doing that, you are building self trust with yourself. It's those things that you can't see, right? And with that, that is actually the subconscious rewiring that's like, oh, yeah, like, well, if I can do this thing that's like really uncomfortable and I'm leaning into the resistance of it, I call it character development. We're in a character building season, and that is sometimes the thing that it takes to make the shift. But your logical mind is not telling you that, oh, maybe I should just go practice Kundalini for 11 minutes today. Like those two things in our 3D matrix world, that's the whole reason. Like that's very intentionally done, is to disconnect you from your knowing, your intuition, your energy, your creativity, so that you think, oh, well, if I just work harder, oh, I'm not doing enough. But that's exactly what leads you into that cycle of burnout.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And it is, we're set up in a world for many reasons we know and don't know, and call me a conspiracy theory, but the way we
You're
are.
in good company.
Yeah, totally. Get our tinfoil hats. We're good.
Yes.
It's set up lack, scarcity, division. Only rich people can do this. They have something I don't. It's more work equals more money, more willpower equals more, like whatever. We're set up with so many beliefs and so many, even just being unsafe in our body, being constantly triggered and then trying to fix it and then triggered again and trying to fix it. It's like
Uh-huh.
we are set up in this, even the self-growth industry. It's
Mhm.
really, it's intense sometimes to see the messages that everybody's getting because everyone's trying to sell a program. They're trying to sell
Yeah.
the solution. So like in all that marketing and in all that buzz, we've lost the plot that it isn't so much about one thing out there. And as you said, the tangible things come in, the strategy comes in, but it's not that first piece. And I love how you teach that. I want to come back to what you said at the beginning about wealth and money being separate. And I want to start
Yeah.
hearing you jam on that and that embodiment piece, that frequency piece.
Okay. So one of the biggest things that I have to like this conditioning that we have been programmed to believe is that you're only wealthy if you have a lot of money. But the truth of the matter is the wealth is actually what you need first. So from a manifestation standpoint, right? We talk about be, do, have, not do, have, be. If I do the thing, if I work really hard, then I can have the money so I can finally be happy, be fulfilled, be free, whatever the thing is. You got to work backwards. You got to know what is the outcome? What is the desired outcome? Happy, fulfilled, free. How can I be that today so that I can actually be inspired to do the action so I can have the thing that I want, the money? Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So wealth is a frequency. And I tell my clients all the time, like, your wealth is not found in a bank account. That is one aspect of it. But your wealth is your health. Your wealth is like me right now. My wealth is this year, I have been gifted with the blessing of going to speak on multiple stages in multiple countries on wealth embodiment and teaching this work far and wide. That is wealth to me, because 3 years ago, sitting in a debt insolvency agency, speaking to some little, I'm going to be my grandfather right now, but little spring chicken who had just graduated. She was no older than 22, I swear to God, looking at me being like, so tell me about your debt. And I'm like, oh, like that was the most mortifying, uncomfortable thing that motivated me, right? And 3 years, that moment, looking back to it, feels like yesterday,
Mm,
right? And so that to me is actually wealth of like the what I have been able to achieve in that time that goes so far beyond just the finances. It's the people I've impacted. It's the time that I've bought back. It's the being able to go on a trip and explore the world, like waking up when I want, building my calendar around my life rather than the other way around. All of those things are wealth. And if that doesn't resonate with you, because maybe you're in a space where you're feeling a little more constricted, I invite you to look around your surroundings of your home, of your body, right? Do you have an able body? Do you have air in your lungs and water coming out of your tap and food in your fridge and electricity running through your home and a device that you're listening to this on? That is wealth. And so often these are things that we take for granted. And as someone who lives in a third world country for more than half the year, usually, I experience these reminders on a daily basis when the electricity kicks out, when the water all of a sudden stops working. I'm like, oh shit, I've got a head full of shampoo right now. Got to go to the fridge and make sure that I've got that reserve water to pour the pitcher over my head. Like those are real things, and we don't think about it as Westerners, right? And so wealth can be very simple. It can be the love of family, the love of friends, being able to go and eat your favorite ice cream down the street. Like those things are all really wealthy. But the problem is, so many people don't allow themselves to feel it. They
mm,
can think about it, they're in their heads. But this is wealth embodiment. So, yeah, write a list, but then feel the sensation of what that actually feels like. And practicing that frequency more than practicing the frequency of scarcity, of lack, of not enough, which we are all programmed to feel very intentionally, right? Anytime that comes up, you go, oh, no, we're over here now. This
mm,
is just a gentle guidance and redirection back to where we desire to be. That is what directs the energy of money to you. The
mm.
frequency of wealth is what creates the tangible expression of money.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to ask, and you just started touching on it for anyone who, because a lot of these buzzwords we hear embodiment. And I know that was
Mhm.
one for a while that I'm like, okay, but how? So practicing feeling that frequency, feeling that, embodiment, how would you describe that?
So for me, one of my favorite ways to do wealth embodiment is by, like meditative practices are great, but again, they can only go so far if you're someone who spends a lot of time in your head. So embodiment is allowing your body to actually feel the sensations of what's coming up for you, but not just the good. You have to sit with the quote unquote, I hate calling it good, bad, but
Mhm.
it's like the higher, we're always seeking the higher level frequencies. But the truth is, as above, so below. So when we are like, no, I don't have time to feel you. No, you're wrong, you're bad, you're uncomfortable, you're painful, right? Well, as much as you are willing to feel the uncomfortable is what you're going to allow yourself to feel the good. Like as much
Mhm.
pain you are willing to experience is as much pleasure as
Mhm.
you're going to be able to experience. So if you're in this small little space where you only go 1 degree to the left to the discomfort, you're only ever going to be able to experience 1 degree to the
Mhm.
right to the pleasure. But if you slowly start giving yourself the permission to feel, to be in the body, that is embodiment, to be in the feeling of the pain, the hurt, the anger, the whatever it is that you've been repressing for so long, you've been ignoring or numbing, right? With all of these beautiful things that we have at our disposal, like alcohol and drugs and social media and, all of that, it is the welcoming of like, it's safe to feel that. And when
Mhm.
you do, you're going to very quickly notice how much goodness is going to start to flood into your life because you're creating space for the good to come in. But right now, it's your energy body is clogged up with all of the emotions that you have not been giving yourself permission to feel.
Yeah. And this is so important. I mean, as you're speaking, it could apply to anyone, but business owners, entrepreneurs, those like us, coaches, mentors, whatever, entrepreneur style it is, it can feel so difficult to separate that because like, well, we have to keep the lights on. We have to though. We have to, business growth plan. And as you're saying, it's like it's not that leads to the wealth ultimately. It's that energy first. It's that be first before we do and have. It's that be. And I just love the way you're speaking to that because especially as entrepreneurs, we have to remember that it's time to get back into the body to experience wealth in a new way. And I love that you say it like that because, we hear just be grateful for what you have or shift your
Mm,
focus not on lack, but what you have. And you're saying that, but in a much more understandable way. Wealth isn't just dollars, richness is everywhere. I can
mhm.
be eating a fruit salad going like, oh, this is abundance right here. A hug with a friend, a good laugh. And I love that as entrepreneurs, we have to remember that as well. And I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that because it's true. It's like again that programming, that conditioning, it runs so deep to think that wealth is just about money. But and a simple practice for anyone that's listening to this is like where are you not giving yourself the gift of the glimmers in your life of like those little micro moments of appreciating, and this might sound corny and cliche, but appreciating a rainbow after a storm or your the smell of your favorite flower, the taste of your favorite food, right? I always tell my clients like I love roses, specifically white roses. They just do something to my soul. They make me feel so good. And for a long time, I couldn't afford, I still don't usually buy myself a full bouquet. I couldn't afford to for a very long time. And so what I do to like make myself feel wealthy is I'll go into the store, go into the florist, and I'll buy one single stemmed white rose.
Mm.
And I'm not even kidding you. People joke with me all the time, like I am a flower whisperer because the appreciation of that single stemmed rose, I can make flowers last for like 3 weeks because of the love and the energy that I pour into them because I look at them every day and I smell them and I'm like, you are just so beautiful. Like it is an essence, right? But that is the frequency of wealth that we are talking about. That is the embodiment. Goes
Yeah.
so much deeper than money.
I love that. I love that so much. And it's so tangible yet emotional and meaningful. And it just makes so much sense. We have to remember this life is meant to be enjoyed. And at the end of the day, being entrepreneurs, they say we trade the 9 to 5 for the 24/7 and all that good stuff, right?
In
But
there.
yeah, but we have to remember why we're doing this and to enjoy that pleasure in those moments and that true wealth. So
Yeah.
as we start to wrap up, I want to talk about and ask you about liberation when it comes to
Mm.
finances.
So a couple years ago, I stood on stage for the very first time declaring. I just volunteered myself up on the stage. It wasn't like a keynote or anything like that, but I had just declared myself the wildly wealthy woman. And this was maybe like 6 months into the journey. And I shared on stage, there was a practice of like, give your elevator pitch and what your business is. And in that moment, I was like, I want to take women specifically from financial literation, like from being financially literate to being financially liberated.
Mm.
And the entire room gave a resounding like, yeah. I was like, oh, we are on to something here. And so it's always stuck with me because I will never forget that moment, that like resounding collective yes. Um, and so for me, I really believe, just like how we started and we shared, that wealth is subjective, liberation is also subjective. But for me personally, it means that I am able to do what I want, when I want, how I want, and where I want without having to ask any permission, specifically from my bank account. It's
Mm.
just the desire of yes. It is that yes frequency. And so that to me is liberation. But as a collective with women, one of the biggest things that I have seen within my own upbringing, within people that I love and care about, is women being financially abused, whether that be by the system, by men, by, um, corporation, like just it is everywhere. It is systematic. And so I really want to empower women to take back the onus and put the onus on them to not just become financially literate. That is the bare minimum that we are working with in my world. It is really this energy of liberation where they feel comfortable, they feel empowered by money because of their solid wealth frequency, that even when they go through a 6 month lull, they know that they're going to figure it out. They know that they're not going to sabotage their success because wealth is ingrained into their system.
That reminds me of freedom. That's one of my core values.
Exactly.
And when I think of money, it's like what you said. I want to be free to buy the organic whatever, book a trip
Yes.
here if I need new shoes, if I want something, whatever. I just want to feel free. And
Yeah.
so what you're talking about, that liberation, I'm sure why there was this huge like, is because yeah, like we're kind of striving to be literate. Some people were taught really well by their parents or whatever with money. Other people weren't.
Mhm.
We're trying to
Yeah.
figure it out and how do I save and what are investments? But you're taking that so much further where it's not just about the literacy, which is, like you said, bare minimum, especially if you're going for success. And it's that liberation. So when people come to you and they're saying, like, I've got this business, we're going, but money's so tight. It's always so tight. Where do we start from feeling like, yeah, I've got this business, I'm aligned, I feel like it's meaningful and purpose filled, but money just feels hard? Where do we kind of start in our own business to switch that around into more liberation?
Yeah, I love that question. So my biggest thing, the thing where I was in this like shift of, okay, I just had this meeting with this spring chicken and I'm not going back to corporate. I am going to figure this the fuck out. And I was like, I have the proof. I created a six-figure business once. I could do it again. Where was I in that process? And the biggest thing was that I came back to my frequency first. And again, it defies logic, but we really need to slow down in order to speed up. You cannot solve the problem from the frequency it was created in. So you must first go inward and work on what is inside to be able to then dictate the external, which is the money. So my invitation would be to come and see me, to come and practice your free gift that you are going to receive. And then when you're ready to go deeper, to come find me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We could talk forever. This is such an important piece. I love too that you focus on women and entrepreneurs. We need that help and that support to take that money and that power back into our hands. And so I thank you so much for the work you do and for everything you shared today. It was amazing. So
I
tell
love
us
being
more
here.
about this gift that you're giving away to everybody.
Yes. Okay. So we are going to be gifting you guys the soul activation practice, which I have adapted from a Tony Robbins practice, and giving credit where credit is due. It has been the most pivotal game changer for me, because what we are doing is we are really changing your state. So it's going beyond a gratitude practice. It is seeing yourself as your future self, but with that energy shift to go along with it. So, really, we are activating the mind, the body, the soul, all in this one 15-minute practice. And I promise you, if you take this seriously, it is a science backed modality. So if you take this seriously, you practice it every single day. I will just share very quickly. I started in 2020 with, I think I got to May and I was nowhere near a six-figure business. And I started practicing probably in about like June, July. And I finished the year at over 100,000. It was like 100,000 and something dollars, like $100 or something like that. It was crazy, but we had just made it past the finish line. And I came back to this practice again when I was in that like pivotal moment in 2023. And again, that 2024 and 2025 were both six-figure years in my business.
Yeah, it's the energy first. As
Yeah.
Kiki says, it's the energy first.
Absolutely.
Oh,
And all
that's
of my clients will agree with you.
yes. Oh, thank you so much for that gift. That sounds incredible. It's going to be in the show notes if you're part of the Insider Circle. It's given already, sent to your inbox. And you also have something that we're putting into the prize draw for this week. Tell us about your app and what you're giving away.
Yes. Okay. So it's called Rituals, which I am just like obsessed.
You have to
Richuals.
trademark that shit because that's like
I'm
your
going
word.
to. Yes, I'm going to. And it is an app in development, as I was sharing with you before. So basically, what we're doing is we're actually building this out together. It is where I give you a couple modalities every single month that you can practice in like 5 to 15 minutes. So you really have no excuse. And then on top of that, you also get a live group coaching call. So this is really your space to come be supported, receive that frequency first medicine of the mind, the body, and the soul, and then to also get support on demand from me. And this, I'm giving you guys, or whoever wins the prize, 3 months access to this space.
Oh, that's incredible. I've been watching you and your rituals, and I see you practicing, and I always want to know, like, what is she actually doing? So I love that there's an app. Thank you again so much, Kiki. This has been so valuable, and I thank you so much for your time and just for the generous work you do.
Thank you, my love. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you for tuning in to the True Transformation Summit. Make sure to take what this guest said, implement it into your life, check the show notes for their gift and to follow along on the journey, and make sure to tune in to the next guest episode. Namaste.